Why do I have to reinvent the wheel? Okay. So the thing is this, once you get into this business, if for some reason you still have problems, I want you to take personal responsibility and look at yourself and say, what am I doing to not make it click? When I sat in the room in New York with all these people that were doing things and they were successful, and I said to myself, I can do it too. I can figure it out. I went home and I joined somebody that already had figured it out, the short sale kid. And then I said, I'm going to do what he's doing. And I was successful.
Yeah, and one thing I really want to say is what's really important about this is that I really feel like real estate builds a confidence in you that nothing else can. It builds a way that you will know that no matter what inflation happens, recessions, or anything, you will make it through it because you will know how to pivot. You will always know how to make money. And anyone who is successful in real estate will say that. Into who says, I don't have time. There's so much on my plate right now. I can't imagine that I will have time. One of this thing as it's not that you don't have time. Don't be mad at me. I'm the kick in the ass coach, so people get mad at me when I say stuff like this, but it's a little more I'm more upfront. It's that you're disguising that time with perfection or procrastination. You're not doing the steps during the time you have, you're procrastinating. Because if this really was so important to you, would you not make time? Think about it this way. If you got really sick, would you make time to rest? Because it's that important, right?
Now, there are four exit strategies when it comes to wholesaling. So a lot of you have heard of double closing. That's A to B, B to C. Okay, that's kind of what everybody thinks about wholesaling, right? Back to back closing. Then there is assignments, or you're never really closing the deal. You assign your contract to somebody else for a fee. Then there are novations. Novation is kind of a newer thing. It's actually partnering with the seller instead of the buyer to close the deal. So an assignment, you assign the contract to an end buyer, you agree on a fee that's going to be paid at closing. Novation is kind of the other side. The way I look at it is you partnering with the seller, and then you and the seller agree to a split of a fee at closing. Okay. The good thing about novations, it lets you put the property on the MLS. There are certain things that you can do in novations that you cannot do with double closing and assignments. Now, installment agreement, this is a funny one, and I'll tell you why. So now it's a big thing out there, especially in states like South Carolina, where they say the illegal is quote unquote, wholesaling is quote unquote illegal. So when I started wholesaling at the beginning of the 90s, that's how we did all the wholesaling deals. So basically, we put the property under contract, and then we attached to the contract another stipulation called the contract for deed. And then we sold the contract for deed under an installment agreement. And that's how we wholesale. The shortcut of saying, you know what, let's skip that and just sign and sell the contract, that came like in the 2000s. Personally, I did that until the end of the 90s, where I was actually creating the contract for deed, because honestly, that's the other powerful thing about contract for deeds. It kind of gives you an ownership interest into the property. It makes you more, back in the 90s, this was the golden years, I could go out and refinance a contract for deed. I could put the property on the contract for deed, a lease option, and actually refinance those. So it got me around for property that I wanted to keep as rentals, for example. It got me around a lot of putting up the down payment and all this stuff because I was issuing these installment agreements with the seller.
So, one of the things that I talk to the students about is wholesaling is going to make you a great amount of money, but you may not see it if you never make the time to do it. And when you're not making time, you're procrastinating. And so one of the things that we like to help with is making sure that you don't stay stuck in that, right? Because wholesaling is a vehicle to your results, right? Wholesaling is the way to for you to reach your goals and make money.
That's the great thing about wholesaling. You really can't mess up. You're not buying a property like with you buy rentals or a fix and flip where you actually get stuck with it, right? You own the property, so somehow you have to do something with it. Maybe you go over budget, or there are more problems with the property you need to fix, or you got the tenants, all the stuff where we talk about with rentals. You can't do that with wholesaling because you really don't own the property. I share with you how I went to hell and back, basically. And I think that you need to hear that too. It's a lot of coaches don't open themselves up and they say, no, it's not a straight line in this business. But the thing is, you always come back stronger than before.
You can decide that. Is your life worth it? I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's a value call that only you can make for yourself. Do you think that you deserve to be in the situation you're at, or do you feel like, you know what, I deserve better? Really, this is personal. We're not telling, the entire world is not going to do real estate, which is unfortunate because real estate is the #1 vehicle to riches. We know this. This has been true since the history of time, since people needed housing. So the question is, what do you want in your life?